Hi, I'm Caleb, and today I'm going to be going over the marijuana revolution. Um, I'm going to go over some of just a brief overview of some good things and some bad things about this hot topic that I'm sure almost everyone is familiar with. Um, Marijuana has been illegal now for over 40 years. It's actually not too clear about why it is illegal. There are some people that say that it's the government. They want more money by seizing criminals. Some people could possibly argue that case. I personally don't really buy into that. Um, there's just not a lot of research on it. I'm myself don't think there's uh, too much on it. There's when you talk about medications and drugs that are given out to people, the FDA has to clear them, and they do numerous long-term studies on drugs to see what the adverse effects could be, not only in the short term, but in the long term also. With marijuana, it has been classified as a drug to where they're limited on the testing or so what they can do, and so I think that is one of the big reasons it's remained illegal despite its increasing popularity over the years. Um, Now, as far as the moving on to some of the good things that could possibly come from it and from the bad from it, I know one thing is people that argue for it being legal, they say that it could bring a lot more revenue and income to the government. Um, I know the Fortune reports that it's estimated to be a $22 billion industry by 2020. So that's obviously a lot of potential for money. Um, Also, Colorado, just alone in this year, they have reported $620 million in sales. That's coming from Forbes. Uh, so there's definitely some good money that comes through with it being potentially legal. The New York Times, though, does moving on to some counters to it. They report that there can be an increase in blood pressure, so it's not always without risk. If someone has hypertension, it can raise that blood pressure even more. So that is definitely an issue. Many Americans have hypertension, so that's just something that adds to it. Um, Moving back on to some more points about the pros about it. Um, Reuters reports that there isn't a decrease in lung function, is what they would expect. However, more studies do need to be done. But that was interesting how they report that there wasn't such a decrease as you would expect. Of course, that can come into factor as to how often people are smoking, because I would say that any type of smoke you're putting in your lungs is going to have a negative effect on your respiratory operations. BBC reports that marijuana has the potential to slow down the progression of Alzheimer's. It also, and again, these are just some reports. It doesn't mean that it does. It's again, more studies need to be done. It also is reported to have some anti-anxiety properties and some antipsychotic properties. Now, I do think this is very important for people, especially with PTSD, especially when it comes to the military. Um, I myself have not been involved in the military, but I have heard of some reports. I know some guy on TV was saying that they would prescribe them all these medications, and they were just very potent, and it would sometimes give him night chills. And one thing he said that really seemed to help him without serious side effects was he'd smoke some marijuana at night, and he said it helped him with the nightmares that he was experiencing from seeing his good friend um, getting seriously injured in the war that he experienced. So I find it hard to not make it acceptable if it works for some people, and that is it's very interesting with medications. Some things work for some people, some things don't. Obviously, if you do make it more widespread or available, you have that potential for abuse. But I guess you could argue the same thing that happens with normal medications. They are able to, though, take out the ingredients that make people feel high from it, and they can just get those relaxant properties. So that is definitely something that they are working on, and they're definitely continue to look forward to improve on and figure out how they can get that into potential uh, medical treatment facilities and other things. So with all the pros and cons, um, and then the revenue that comes in, it's still kind of up in the air on personally for what I would think to do about it. Um, I know as the research continues, we'll go ahead and see whether we lean more so in the area of making it legal or keeping it as an illegal substance. And that will conclude my speech for today. Thank you.